Hey friendo, Steve here. Welcome back to the channel. So it's Tuesday. That means Raw was last night. And usually I don't do this for Raw. We recap Raw over at Going in Raw in podcast form. But last night was something pretty big. So of course, everybody's been talking lately about the WWE problem with their main event at WrestleMania. The Sami Zayn problem is what they're calling it. I even issued a poll here on WrestleJuice. Who do you guys think should go to WrestleMania to challenge Roman for the title? Should it be Cody Rhodes? Should it be Sami Zayn? Cody Rhodes won 56% to 40, whatever the other percent would be. I guess 44. And the comments were loaded. I said you can't choose both, but a lot of you wanted both, a night one, night two situation or a triple threat, but everybody had their opinions. A lot of people were saying Sammy's got the momentum right now. And my stance for the past week or so has been let the story play out, which is not a stance that I took pretty much ever with Vince McMahon, but this is different because it's not Vince McMahon, it's Triple H. And we're talking about the bloodline story here and how are they going to rope Cody Rhodes into it? How is he not going to feel like he's just sort of being jammed in there? And on Raw, Monday night, we had our first answer. And it was this marvelously, meticulously crafted promo between Cody Rhodes and Paul Heyman, which was a masterstroke in Cody's character convincing the crowd, hey, it doesn't matter what you guys think. I'm going anyways, but I'm with you. I'd rather face Sami Zayn, and it looks like it's going to be Sami Zayn. So I broke down this promo because we don't typically do that at Going in Raw. We talk about story, and I'm sure we'll talk about the promo quite a bit in depth on the show later on today. But I thought this promo was so good. It was absolutely just perfect note for note, and it illustrated why Cody is the perfect guy to take on Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. In fact, I'm really looking forward to Elimination Chamber because I feel like at Elimination Chamber and maybe the SmackDown after it, everybody else will sort of be there on the same page because I feel like, at least my stance has been, this story is going to play out a certain way in which we're all going to be satisfied with what happens at Mania and how they get there. And that specifically is going to be what we kind of figured it would be going back a ways. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn against the Usos for all their titles, which is interesting because if you guys noticed on this past Friday SmackDown, the Usos are putting up all the titles against whoever wins this latest tournament on SmackDown, which ended up being Braun Strowman and Ricochet. At least that's what I gathered from the graphic. Originally, it looked like it was going to be the SmackDown tag titles. However, if you notice in the graphic on Friday, it's like both the red and blue color titles, and Michael Cole specifically did not specify that it was the SmackDown titles, which leads me to believe, obviously, the Usos are going to beat Braun Strowman and Ricochet, and all their titles are going to be put up at WrestleMania, similar to how Roman's are. So it doesn't look like the titles are actually being split. Let's get to the promo because this was such a great promo. I've watched it 3 times by now. I'll probably watch it another couple times before the podcast on Tuesday, which I know is today, but technically for me, it's 12:15 in the morning. Okay, so it's totally Tuesday already. Anyways. So Cody strolls out looking great in a frock coat. The crowd loves him. And he acknowledges Roman Reigns as his opponent at WrestleMania. But, and as soon as he said Roman Reigns, what does the crowd do? And he acknowledges, he waits for the crowd to get it in, to get what they want to say off their chest. They start doing the Sammy chants, right? He acknowledges them. He says, you must have been reading my mind. He says, my job is easy. My path to WrestleMania is straight. It's set. I'm the one taking on Roman Reigns. He puts over Sammy. He says, this guy might be my opponent at WrestleMania because my destination is unclear because at Elimination Chamber, he's fighting Roman Reigns. Sammy's on his home turf. He's got all the momentum. He might win, but my spot is still set. And he says it with not a shred of arrogance, just matter of fact. I won the Rumble. I go to WrestleMania. And he looks in the camera. He says, Sammy, may the best man win. And you get the idea, hey, whoever wins this Roman Sammy match at Elimination Chamber, Cody's going to accept that. And if it's Roman or if it's Sammy, this is going to be, Cody has one goal, and that's to win a wrestling championship title. He doesn't have any personal stakes in it whatsoever. There's no arrogance. There's no personal animosity. This is simply to add something to his family's legacy. And at this point, Roman Reigns has that. That brings out Paul Heyman. Cody pays his respects to Paul Heyman while jokingly saying, "My dad and brother have a nickname for you," which he does not divulge. And he proceeds to tell, out of respect to Paul Heyman, a working man's story, one that everybody can relate to in some way, shape, or form. He talks about how it was the year 2000. Dusty didn't have a job. He was doing local car commercials, not to make money because he only had $100 in his bank account. He was doing it to hold on to the car that he already had. He was doing it to make sure it didn't get repoed. Now that story right there built sympathy for Cody. It accomplished a couple things. It builds sympathy for Cody Rhodes. Yes, we know him as being a guy who has A, the most complex contract in WWE. B, he flies on private jets when he goes places. He's living the good life now, but it wasn't always like that. He had to work to get his way there. That's what Heyman said. He built Cody up before Cody starts his story. He says, you had to work to get your way here. You were fired. You left. You went to a different place. You built something. You came back. You're bigger. You're better. You worked every step of the way. So Cody tells this story about his dad, and Paul Heyman and ECW comes to town. Paul Heyman calls up Dusty. He says, "Hey, we're running this angle with Steve Corino. Can you please come out and I'll give you a handsome payday. I need you to do a promo." So Dusty did. And he says, you know what? Not only did it put, food on our table, but it also made my dad feel special again. Cody is being appreciative of his opponent's special counsel, a guy who is manipulative, a guy who is a politician. Cody saying, "Hey, all this stuff aside, I respect you because of what you did for my dad." And that's a story. If the crowd, if everybody watching this didn't necessarily understand or go through something similar to what Cody went through, we can all understand it. We can all sympathize with it. We might have known people who have gone through that if we didn't go through it ourselves. Cody's simply trying to be a decent human being here. He's opening up, and more importantly, he's being vulnerable to Paul Heyman. It's just sincerity and vulnerability, two traits that the entire crowd loves. Everybody loves that in a babyface. Sincerity and vulnerability. Heyman is so touched, he cries. This side of Cody, this story, leaves Paul Heyman a little bit shook. The crowd starts chanting, "Thank you, Paul." He says, "Oh," and with almost an amount of hesitation over what comes next. He says, "You just got me. You caught me off guard. You got me personally." And he has to pause and collect himself. And then he proceeds to build up Cody in a way that nobody else can, putting over his accomplishments. And again, it's not Cody doing that. It's Heyman doing that. So it's not Cody being arrogant. It's Heyman, an expert in this field, probably the expert in this field, building up Cody Rhodes. He says, the road you've taken for the titles is difficult, but it's because you've never been prepped to take the spotlight. Are you going to be able to handle the pressure, or will you crumble? Again, sort of putting it in the audience's mind that Cody is human. He's not Homelander. He's not Superman. He's not invulnerable. We could all be in this same position. Would we buckle under the pressure? Again, Cody is being related to the rest of us. He brings up the Performance Center. He starts listing off all these names that Dusty trained and prepped, and they're the biggest names of this generation, including, of course, Roman Reigns. He says, except there's one person who Dusty didn't train and prepare for the spotlight, and that's you, Cody Rhodes. And that stings, Cody. That's it. Cody's not putting up a facade. He's an open book. He is an open book. There's no arrogance there. There is no facade there. That stings him. But then Paul Heyman does something interesting. He says, but maybe that's because he wanted you to stand out on your own. He didn't want you to have the burden of being in his shadow. And Cody takes a little sense of comfort in that. Paul Heyman is taking Cody and the rest of us on an emotional roller coaster ride because he's manipulative. Because then he gets out the knife and he says, I loved your father and he loved me. And in our last conversation, he revealed to me that you were his favorite son. And Cody is on the verge of tears and he's about to cry. But then Heyman drops this. But Roman was the son he wished he had. And oh my God. If there's a moment that and by the way, it seems like at least 20% of the crowd is wearing Cody Rhodes merchandise, and there are a ton of Cody Rhodes signs in the crowd. So, and then he drops the mic with the most arrogance just dripping off of him. Just an absolute FU to Cody Rhodes. And at this point, if you don't want to see Cody Rhodes beat the shit out of Paul Heyman, but more likely Roman Reigns, then there's really just something wrong with you, because in this one promo, this is the story right here. This is storytelling right here. But the great thing is Cody's not a pushover. Instead of just playing Roman Reigns' music or whoever music Paul Heyman comes out to these days and leaving on that, Cody walks up to him and demands that Paul shake his hand. Paul doesn't want to, but Cody grabs it and Paul yelps because it probably hurts. And he says, you know, all I want to do is win a wrestling championship, but everybody wants to make it personal. Well, when I take those titles off of Roman Reigns, it's going to be personal. And it was great because nobody likes a pushover in their babyface. That's one thing Vince McMahon always used to do. Sometimes his babyfaces would simply come off as pushovers. Cody Rhodes is not a pushover. And it was a perfectly crafted promo between Cody Rhodes and Paul Heyman that accomplished a lot of different things. Number one, tells us, sorry guys, whether you like it or not, it's Cody Rhodes going to WrestleMania. The only question is whether it's going to be against Sammy or Roman Reigns, because Sammy has his match. I love this. I thought it was great. I'm interested. I'm going to pull you guys again because I'm kind of curious if this promo might have opened your eyes or not, or swayed you to go a different way, or to understand there are pieces of this puzzle. There are pieces of the story that are still in play, that are still, being set in the puzzle. And if that's going to change your opinion at all, because this promo was absolutely spectacular. The way it was structured was absolutely perfect, point to point. I want to get your guys' thoughts on it. Let me know in the comments below. Do me a favor, if you like this rant, give this video a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, notify bell. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate it. Till next time, I'll see you over this video over here.